we're going to start the project to water cool my rig. It's very noisy right now, being air cooled. It runs very high temperatures. It's not a very happy machine. It's very dusty in here. Animals, pet dander, everything collects in the heatsink, and it makes for a very unhappy CPU. I get crashes all the time because it's too hot. I've had it go into thermal shutdown. It's just not a pretty picture. So today we're going to remove the air-cooled heatsink fan combination. It's just running the stock one, and we're going to replace it with water cooled. It's not a slouch of a chip. It's FX 8350, 8-core AMD processor, and it is currently at idle. And if I can get this without glare, 113. That's after I have just blown all the dust and dirt out, and it still runs 113 Fahrenheit. Let's see if we can do better. What I have to replace it is this LickMax 2 240 from Enermax. It is designed to fit most modern CPU sockets, including the AMD AM3 Plus that I have. In the kit is the installation guide, this double fan radiator that is pre-connected and pre-watered to the water block. I have two 120mm fans and the installation hardware. The water block comes configured for mounting Intel, but it is not difficult to change out to AMD AM3. This whole kit and the mounting should help it to run a bit cooler, be easier to clean, and lower maintenance. Let's see how well this works. And so here it is. In all its dirty glory. Air-cooled CPU. Has been using it for several years now. Yes, I have 3 hard drives. I had somebody give me a solid-state drive. I've got that mostly as a RAM drive. I shouldn't say RAM drive. It's a basically just a memory expander to help the fact that I've only got 16 gigs. It carries most of the swap. It does, the ready boost, whatever you call it. It just helps memory issues. Today the issue is this. I've already had to take it apart, clean all the dust out of it. It never comes perfectly clean. What's going in place? The new and great water cooling. The water block here. I installed two 120mm fans. The fans have a neat little feature where they can be switched from 3 different maximum speed levels for being ultra quiet, being standard, or being ready for overclocking. I don't know that I will ever overclock, but I went ahead and set it to the highest just so that I could. Should I want to, I can. So now we're going to go ahead and get this installed in the case up here, and hopefully it'll have room so I can change RAM if I need to. We'll see what turns out, but there is some spots up here designed for either fans or water block should you choose. I'm going to try to fit them in here and see what happens. And there it is, installed the radiator, the rad. Put some light on it. That doesn't help much. Installed the rad. It actually kind of fits. There is a bit of interference down here where the RAM is installed, so if I ever have to change any of this, which believe it or not I do kind of have plans to in the future, I will have to remove the rad. But I did find that it wasn't too difficult. I did, however, come around this side, have to kind of retrofit kludge, however you want to call it. But that's just kind of fun with home PC. You know, as you're teaching yourself, you can't always do things professionally and perfectly as everyone would expect. But you do what you can to make things work and not be tremendously ugly. And that will work, and it is not tremendously ugly. So now the next step is to move on to replacing the CPU block. We've got to pull this fan off. We've got to pull the bracketry off. There's 4 screws down there, 2 on each side. And once that is off, this water block will install in place. The fun of that's going to be the fact that the fans is down there. If my flashlight would work, it'd be even great. Where the CPU fan plugs in is way down back underneath the radiator. I might be able to get to it from the other side, but I'm not entirely certain. We'll see how it goes. But so far, so good. And there's with the CPU cooler removed. Remember, you want to make sure you get all the old thermal paste off of there. It does not help to have it there. It is old, partially probably dried out. It will become a hindrance to transferring heat. This I don't really care about. This is the stock cooler that was on it. Interesting side note, when I removed this, the CPU remained on the cooler, pulled right out of that socket. Not the end of the world. One thing I did have to do is go through and check each and every pin, make sure they're all still straight and in line with each other. If you have even one pin that's bent, it will not fit in properly, it will not work properly. All I had to do was I used just a small jeweler's flathead screwdriver that's a Phillips, but I used a jeweler's flathead screwdriver and magnifying glass and a bright light. Was able to get these pins lined up just right again. You want to be careful when doing that. You don't want to bend pins back and forth multiple times. It'll cause them to be weak and break, and you just ruin the CPU. However, done just right with a lot of care, patience, you can reserve it and then get it installed again without any trouble. The next steps I have to remove these 2 brackets and the backing plate that's behind all this so that I can install the new backing plate, water block, and get it all to fit down in here. The kit, the water cooling kit, came with a new bit of thermal paste. If I can get it focus. It came with new thermal paste. You always want to use the new paste on here. And that's the next step. Get this removed, get the old bracketry removed and taken out so that we can fit the new ones. There you go. The old brackets are off. The new bracket is on. They are just held in place by these little plastic standoffs. They're just kind of a very loose friction fit. The one concern I do have is that when installing new water block, I end up bumping some of those standoffs, some of those holding pins, and push them back through. I'm working on a flat desk here where there's not much room to get underneath. However, we'll see how it goes. The next step is, of course, the thermal paste. There's something right in the middle of the light. Just need to add enough so that it will spread evenly across the top of the CPU. As such. Now once you press the block on there, it will spread. If you really want to get all fancy with it and push it around and you get it all over your fingers, whatnot, if you got gloves, it's fine. But generally it is sufficient just to install the new block. The pressure from that will spread the paste across the rest of the CPU. Will be more than sufficient. So now let's get the water block installed. See how that goes. Well, there it is, all together. I did try. There we go. Before you hook it up, you always do a on-bench test. If I can find the button. And as soon as the power up, the light on the water block lights up. I did find there were a few other fans that had gone out on me. I will be replacing them as I can. I did find, let's see if we can see it down here. The brown fan there was actually a clear with blue LED, but the fan itself had seized. LEDs still work, but it was no longer a fan. So I put that in there, which is one of these beauties, which is an NF F12 PWM by Noctua. I did a little research and found out these were actually supposed to be one of the more spectacular fans that worked very well, were very quiet, very long lasting, and low power consumption. They were rated very well, so I bought two of those. I do have one blowing air in on my hard drives. I installed the second one next to the power supply, pulling in from the bottom of the case. I did also discover while doing my power on test that the power supply fan no longer spins. It's an issue. I'm hoping that at least for now, with all the flow through the case, that the extra fans, because I had this one, I now have two extra fans blowing out, and I have two extra fans blowing in. Hopefully that will help the power supply to breathe for just a little bit longer until I can get a new one to replace it. But in a nutshell, that's completed. It is all back together. It is time to install it back on my desk, power it up for real, give it some tests, see what we get. As you can see, it's not a massive improvement. Kind of at idle, it's still running 130, 136, max of 140. The system temperature, however, is running much cooler. I think that for the radiators, I'm going to have to take, I believe it's this one here, which says it's running at 300 RPM. I'm going to have to take those and run them straight off of a Molex connector instead of the onboard headers, fan headers. Try to get a little more pushed, and hopefully that'll bring these temperatures down a little bit more. The CPU fan, that is the pumps, might need to, that is the pumps, we might need to put those on a power supply header as well, or a Molex connector as well. We will have to see, but for now I'm going to run a few more tests, try a little bit of gaming, a few different things, and see how it works. Keep an eye on temperatures as they go. Well, I am getting up 160-ish, running Fallout 4. So I think I am going to go ahead and switch those power leads for the radiator fans. See if I can just get them full speed pretty much all the time. And maybe that will help keep it much cooler. Because I noticed there is heat coming off the top of the case where I put the rad, but not a lot of air moving through it. So I'm thinking that that's probably why it says that I've got a fan spinning at 324 RPM. It's probably those rad fans. Probably those rad fans. So we'll just have to tweak it a little bit more, see what we can get out of it. Well, alright then. I discovered that the fans on the radiator were not spinning properly, as I had already predicted, as I had seen before. In fact, one of them still is not. I still have one that is spinning at 265 RPM. However, the other one is now spinning at 2000 RPM, working quite well. The highest the temperature of the CPU got at boot was an 86, whereas it was getting up to 120, 130 previously. The current is running at 82, sitting at idle, 7% idle. It's actually idling a lot lower than it was previously, interesting enough. So I have, this is the pump speed. This is fan 2 and fan 1 respectively, and this one is one of the ones intake for the case. The temperatures are running much better. I am about to go load up a game again and see what it does under load. Well, how about that? I'm playing several minutes. It never got over 96.8 degrees on the CPU. The case is, the system inside, the case temperature, internal temperature, is warming up a bit, 1 or 2. But that is only because, where is it? Oh, it's down here. The video card I'm using, they're running over, see that one's running 152.6, if you can see that. Because it's running max load, it's dumping all of the heat into the case, but the rest of the fans are pretty much maintaining, so it's not getting too stinking hot. I think I have a win. Now with that fan, where did it go? That fan running over 2000 RPM, it's a little bit noisier, but not nearly as bad as the system was before I switched everything out. So I think this I can live with. So looks like it's a wrap. Looks like my system is now going to be a little bit more stable, much cooler. I still need to replace the power supply because the fan is seizing up. It hasn't completely seized. I did see it spinning a little bit, so I can't complain that it is still moving, maintaining. Voltages still all look okay. So I think I'm going to call this done and a success. Thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you like it. Give me a thumbs up. And check out my website, Zyferus.com, Zyferus. I will have a link in the description. I've got a forum started if you want to discuss what we've gone over. I will be making text blog posts on it. I've already got one there about static electricity. Go ahead and check it out. Feel free to comment on it. Sign up for the website. And I'll be making more as I go along. If this video wasn't the greatest quality, I do apologize. I don't yet have a full tripod, so I'm still holding the camera by hand. But all this will come in time, and being the first video, it's not going to be great, but I hope it's something you guys will like. Let me know. If you do like it, I'll keep making them. I'll probably keep making them anyways. But yeah, let me know what you think. This is Zyferus.com. Thank you very much.